Good afternoon, Brenda. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great, thank you.
Good.
Wish the sun was out again. The last couple of days have been pretty nice, but
Yeah. Go from shorts and flip-flops to jeans and boots and a sweater today.
right, feel like an Eskimo, really.
I got in the car and I knew I lived in Oregon because it was raining out. When I got in the car, the air conditioning was blasting. So.
Yeah, it seems like lately Mother Nature has a bit of schizophrenia.
Yeah.
How have you been doing besides that?
Oh, there's been a few things going on. I've been under a little pressure and a dilemma concerning an old friend.
Would you like to tell me about it?
Yeah, well, his name's John. He's been a friend for about 28 years. And 8 of those years, we actually lived together and he helped me raise my daughters. And we had a great relationship. And his brother lived in St. Louis and his wife took off and left him with a little baby. And so his brother wanted to move down there and I wasn't going to take my girls down there and take them away from their dad. So I didn't go with them. He was down there for 13 years and we stayed really good friends over that period of time. And 5 years ago, I invited him to come to Salem. His brother had a heart attack and died. And I said, why don't you come to Salem? His mother and his older brother both passed away from Alzheimer's. And John he's 14 years older than me, and he had a small stroke. And he didn't have anybody down there, so he moved up to Salem. What I didn't know was he has dementia, and he's in denial. And he had another stroke while I was here, and he wasn't supposed to be drinking. And he started drinking when he came up, and of course I fell off the wagon. And then he had never been an angry person, and I found out that he had serious anger issues, and the doctors think it was partly from dementia and a stroke.
I've heard that.
And so he beat me up a couple times, ended up in jail for 7 months. And he had nobody, so I felt sorry for him. And he got out of jail, and he lived on the streets for about 8 months. And he had another stroke. And the hospital called me. And so I let him come back again this last winter. And last month, he went out and got drunk again, and one night attacked me and my boyfriend. Punched me, broke my glasses, put my boyfriend's head through the wall and broke his nose, and went ballistic. It took 3 people to get him under control, and I had to call the police. And they couldn't get him under control. So he cannot be in my life anymore, and I've talked to social services and everything, trying to get him evaluated, trying to get him help. He doesn't know how to use a cell phone anymore. He doesn't remember names or appointments or...
It sounds very much like a big dilemma for you. Sounds like you have had a lot of care and concern about this man over the years, and unfortunately it sounds like he's been through a lot. And now maybe he's not, doesn't have the capacity about himself to take care of himself.
No, and I can't, well, unfortunately, I care for him very much. I love him. He's been a friend and a big part of my life for a long time. And my boyfriend likes him, but he doesn't like him because he's abused me, but nobody understands. It's not the person who he used to be, and he's not that person that I knew.
Yeah, I can see your dilemma. You are in a hard spot. You care about this person that you've known all of your life, and you want to help him. And you have to set personal boundaries that are safe for you and others in your household. And
This is not safe.
It's hard for you to come to grips with the fact that, what I hear you saying is it's hard for you to come to grips with the fact that this isn't the person you used to know. and you have to protect yourself.
In the meantime, he's on the streets. And I can't get into, it tears me apart to think of him being on the street and dying alone.
Have you tried to contact any kind of senior advocate for him?
Yeah, and
Senior protective
I've
services?
talked to a couple of them already, and they can't do anything until he agrees to an evaluation, which he's in denial of how bad it is. And so he won't agree himself. It's like he doesn't want to know because he watched his brother and his mother die from it. And I think he's full of fear.
Yeah, fear. I could only imagine what it would be like for someone to feel like they're losing their capacity to comprehend. What have you been told is available out there for someone?
Absolutely nothing.
Is he?
That's why I'm in a dilemma, because I want to help him, but everybody else around me is telling me to stay away from him. And it's killing me to not help him, because we don't, the police told me and the doctor said, he could snap at any time, and I may not be as lucky next time.
Absolutely.
And so, because I'm thinking about trying to take him places and trying to get into some Social Security, but he won't agree to any kind of evaluation, because I told him if he did some evaluation, maybe he could get some housing or some help.
Do you think that you could be an advocate for him without seeing him? Do you think, do you think you could be an advocate for him?
They said I had to I needed to have him sign something before it started. The problem is, like I said, he's in denial of what's happening to him, or he knows, and because of his fear level, he's ignoring it. Instead of, and it's getting to the point now he's not bad enough that I can make those decisions for him. And then if he gets bad enough, since I'm not married to him, he has to sign something saying I can make decisions for him when he gets bad. But he doesn't want to admit that he's getting bad. Yeah. And what's sad is it's someone I care about, and you don't want to see someone you care about sleeping outside in a sleeping bag and, having nothing, nobody to care about, no friends, and he doesn't do drugs or anything. He's out there in a rough crowd.
What I hear you saying is you're really concerned about his well-being.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you place your well-being on the scale of, is it as important to you as his is? Where do you have a line? I mean, do you personally have a line that you can draw?
Well, I know that some of like I said, the doctor and the social service lady said that they understand how hard it is on me, but that I do have to protect myself, and I feel really bad what he did to my boyfriend, and I have to accept that. Unfortunately, I'm one of those people that sometimes I think of others before myself, and I know in my program I worked at that you can't do that. You've got to take care of yourself first before you can help others, and I get myself all worked up because it breaks my heart to see my friend die, and it's like he's dying alive, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I absolutely can identify with you, Dawn, because on one hand I hear you saying you care about this person, you don't want to see him hurt, you don't want to see him out on the streets, you don't want to see him taken advantage of. He is lacking the capacity to take care of himself. Yet on the other hand, I hear your concern and your compassion for your boyfriend's safety, and I don't really hear your compassion for your own well-being, but you do state that you should have that.
Yeah, other people are telling me.
And for you to Do you feel like for you to be there for anyone, you have to take care of yourself first?
Yeah, and I know, like I said, I've looked up program. I know I should, and that's something that probably, you're right, I probably should be addressed and take a closer look at that, how much.
What would you, what would be the perfect scenario for you? What do you feel like would leave you feeling the best inside?
If they would allow me to make some decisions for him, that would be nice, and I just want to have them be able to find some housing. Like Pioneer Village, they take 30% of somebody's Social Security, and that's their rent, so he can afford it. But I can't sign him up for it, for the waiting list, and he won't do it for himself. I'd like to see him get into his own place,
Okay.
and then I'd be able to check on him, or have social services have somebody go check on him or something.
So your best case scenario is you would like to get him into safety. What is the minimum that you would be okay with to feel like you've done something to help him?
Actually, now that you say it that way, I've probably done everything I can do, except for letting him move back in.
And is that a viable option for you or for anyone else in the household?
No.
It-
Actually, the police, they don't want me having any contact with them at all.
Okay.
So there's that too.
And do you want to be in court because the police, you sounds like you've done a lot of work on your own life. Is this gentleman who may not even be the gentleman who he used to be important enough to take away everything that you've worked for?
No. And I also was thinking too, if he got into his own place, am I endangering other people? What if he starts forgetting, towards the end before he left, he was forgetting things like he'd light a cigarette in the house with a burner and then forget to shut it off. When he's not supposed to smoke in the house too, I wake up at 1 in the morning and you can smell the burner, And I'm thinking too, if he got into his own place, he could be dangerous to other people in the complex.
Yeah, it sounds.
It's a terrible dilemma.
Sounds to me like the best scenario for him would to be in a controlled environment where there's people capable of dealing with a dementia person. And you've talked a little bit about your programs and such. So do you feel you're able to change someone else?
Well, I'd like to think so, but I'm not very good at it. I can't change him, and because of his small strokes and his dementia, I don't think he knows what's going. He doesn't remember. Like, he went to jail for this last incident, and he tried to call like 3 times, and later on the officer came to my house and told me that they can tell who's called. And the officer came to my house and told me that he was trying to get a hold of me because he didn't remember what happened and why he was in jail. So, and the thing is the social service people, they just don't.
Don't they have, does your county's jail have mental health people that work in it?
Yeah, they don't care. He's actually in Lincoln County. They didn't care.
Oh.
I know that they blamed it on the alcohol.
Okay.
I know that the women that I did talk to, they've put in notes of what I've said that have been passed on to West Salem Clinic, where he has doctors. And so they said what the best thing that could happen is if he ends up at the hospital, or if he goes to the doctor, there'll be a red flag to try to identify this.
Have you reached out to the doctors yourself?
No, they can't. I can't. They won't do it because of confidentiality.
They can't tell you anything, but
Well, that's what
will
social
they not
services did.
listen
They
to
put
you?
in. They did. They put in a note to the doctor, so it's in the computer. So if he shows up, they might be able to call in somebody at that time, or if he ends up in the hospital again, or has another stroke, or gets beat up on the street or something. It's in his chart that
For
that brings
red
somebody in to talk to him.
But the jail systems won't do anything.
No, he's just got out a couple days ago, so.
That must be very frustrating for you.
Yeah, he's back on the street again. I've seen him walking around a couple of times, and I can't do anything for him. So it's just driving me nuts. And so
So,
that's why I want to do some counseling, because I can't let this affect me. And
absolutely.
there's nothing. My hands are tied. It's not my fault.
What are you doing on your own to try to stay healthy through this? And are
Well,
you trying to do anything to?
I've made some appointments with some other counselors, two beside you, and I've just kind of been procrastinating on going that often because I'm so wrapped up in school, and I'm kind of using school and my recovery meetings as something to distract me. And
Staying busy
I've
is
talked to my spiritual advisor about this, and she's definitely concerned for my safety. So.
safety. Your safety physically from him has to probably be your top concern from what you've told me.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like you are using, you're focusing on some positives, school and your program, to keep you distracted from it. I like that you realize that there's nothing you can do about him, that you have to try to accept, practice some radical acceptance,
Mm-hmm.
use some intervention tools. By
You sound like a couple people I've talked to.
by saying no to him, you're really saying yes to your own safety. You're saying yes to the safety of your boyfriend who loves you and who really has no connection to this person except you, and who has been willing thus far to put himself in danger,
Mm-hmm.
so you could try to help this man. So
That's what's happened.
do you think that you will ever be able to get to a point where you realize you've done what you can, and as much as it hurts, that you sadly may have to say goodbye to him until he's ready to get some help?
That's kind of what I've done, and that's what I know. It's like, it's one of those things where you know all the things that everybody's telling you.
Sure.
It's just feeling them.
Sure.
So I just thought maybe I'm just going to kind of keep my eye on him, because he's obviously just hanging around the Wallace Park and sleeping around there, and
Your feelings are very valid, and they're very understandable.
it's just sad to see somebody that I knew for so many years to be funny, outgoing, caring, and he's not that person today.
Do you realize that, well, when you came to the end of your addiction, what finally happened for you to make you change?
For me, it was spiritual.
Okay. Did you get tired of the way you were living? Did you?
I didn't even really know the way I was living because I was so intoxicated most of the time.
Okay. So
I was tired, sick and tired of being sick and tired, but I didn't know any different for so long.
Can you see some similarities between being intoxicated and being in a fog and being in dementia? I mean,
yeah.
One of them ultimately you have control over, but when we get to that point, we don't, right?
Kind of what it's like, because you don't know who you're going to be when you're drinking. Your personality's different.
Right. And no one could have told you,
Uh-huh.
I don't know about you, and for me, no one could have told me to change until I reached the moment that I was supposed to change.
I thought I was a fun drunk and everybody loved me. It wasn't the case.
I'm sure in the first half hour of it, maybe it was. But
First 20 years.
That's for another session.
Yes, it is.
I think that I would implore you, or I would challenge you to try to picture this friend, this person that you love. Don't change the way you feel for him. It's not his fault. He has a condition just similar as you do. It's not the person. It's what's wrong with him. And remember that. And remember, until he's ready to get help, what can you do?
I know. And the thing is, it's not his fault and it's not who he is. But, so I can't, I'm thinking, well, it's not his fault. But even though it's not his fault, the fact that he's dangerous is he's dangerous. And that doesn't change anything, So I have to accept the fact that,
Absolutely.
You're right, I have to accept it. You're absolutely right.
And do you think he realizes that he's hurting you?
I don't know, actually.
Do you think that he would intentionally physically hurt you?
He has. He's beaten the crap out of me a couple times.
I apologize. I didn't word that correctly. Do you think if he did not have the dementia or the complications from that dementia, that for no reason he would...
Absolutely not.
Okay. So see, the person that I'm getting the impression that you feel like maybe you're being forced to abandon him. But the person he is today, you're not abandoning that friend. You're not abandoning, this person. When he's ready to get help, you absolutely have an option to pick right back up and help him do that.
I didn't think of that. Maybe by just not talking to him and being around him, maybe...
You've heard of enabling people, correct?
Yeah. Maybe he'll get tired of being on the streets and want to get help.
I know for myself, I had to get sick and tired of living the way I was living before I wanted to change. Do you believe that?
Hopefully. I'm hoping. I can't imagine why anybody'd want to live the way he's living, but, he's I don't know. And when I see him, he's taking care of himself. He looks good. It's not like he's walking around all scrunchied up. He's always been very vain. Because he's always concerned about how he looks. Because he was a handsome man back in the day.
So, it sounds like you're saying that he's obviously eating well. He's obviously taking care of his hygiene.
Mm-hmm.
He may not be living in the ideal circumstances.
I don't think he notices that much, really.
But he is. What I'm hearing from you is he's making these choices to live there. Because if he were to sign the papers needed, you would be there to help him, correct?
Yeah, if it was done supervised, like I talked about with the social service people.
And
they would have a supervised, I would take him in and we'd be supervised, to make sure of my safety.
So I hear you saying you've given him the options.
Uh-huh.
And I hear you saying he's not willing to do it.
Uh-huh.
I understand your dilemma, but you could feel perfectly fine about the steps that you've taken, and you could get to a place where this is now in his hands. If he wants my help, I'm here for him, and I need to be safe for myself and my partner. Does that?
Yeah, and you kind of said it too. It's kind of acceptance. I just have to accept this. This is, it's not my fault. It's out of my control. I gotta accept it and not feel guilty. It's not like I put him on the street. That's where he chose to be.
While it hurts, while it's still painful for you, the problem or for a lack of a better term, the ball's not really in your court. And you can't make another person change.
It's sad how little the state can do or will do.
It is. Yeah.
Things have to be pretty drastic for them to step in and intervene.
What do you think you can do to try to shift your thinking from your dilemma, from you feeling responsible to you coming around to feeling, I have empathy for this person and I've done what I can?
Yeah, well, that's you kind of helped already a little bit today about accepting it. And like I said, when I finish school, I'm planning on doing a little more counseling for a number of reasons. To start my new career that I'm going into, counseling will be important. So I know that that's something that's required or looked, not really required, but very highly suggested. So I planned on doing it anyway. And I think for the reasons like this, because I do have issues with getting wrapped up with people, and I care, and so I bring it on myself, and I have to let go of that, because when I get into the field, I can't, like, I'd like to maybe work with children of addict parents, kind of in that, but I have to be careful because I'm going to want to take them all home.
Right.
And I have to learn to separate that, and he will be a good example of my first situation where I have to separate my own feelings from reality.
We're getting kind of close to the end, so what I'd like to kind of put this all together in that I want to commend you for recognizing that you want to just bring everybody in and help everyone, and that you can't. Couple of things that you can do that we could, maybe set as not homework, but just as a project for you to do until we meet again, is to reach out. Sorry about that. That's just a little reminder that we're getting close to being done.
Okay.
You could reach out to, find out more resources. You can do that from afar, not putting yourself or your boyfriend in any jeopardy. You can, if you see him and it's a safe distance and you have someone there, you can say, I'm here for you when you're ready to be there for yourself. Are those a couple of things you'd be willing to do? And
absolutely.
You want to make an appointment for a couple of weeks from now and come back and we'll talk about it?
Sounds like a great idea. Let you know what's going on.
I'm really glad you were able to share this with me. I'm sorry for your dilemma, and I'm glad that you are taking the steps to take it.
Well, I appreciate you gave me some good things to think about. For one, acceptance, which is something really important, and
it helps us all.
That's huge in a lot of areas.
All right. Thank you. We'll make another appointment.
Okay.